My name is Victoria Hammer, and I serve as the REAP group leader and as the director of the Rural, Insular Areas, and Native Achievement Programs under which the REAP program falls. Our program officers are truly, if you've interacted with them before, you truly know they're at the heart of our team, and I'd like to recognize each one of them as we get started. My colleagues Jordan Haydel and Emily Lair and Eric Schultz and Lainey Umland. Day to day, they really provide you all support. So again, if you haven't interacted with them yet, you likely will in the future, and you'll be fortunate to have them answer your questions and do anything to support you. You will hear from our colleagues today as we discuss how to apply for fiscal year 2026 SRSA funding and cover the key topics to keep in mind when applying and planning to implement this grant. Next slide, please. We will get started with just a few basic procedures. As you'll notice, we just dropped the link to our resource pages in the chat, and we will continue to add helpful links into the chat throughout today's presentation. That link will be coming just in one moment. We've muted all attendees' lines and turned off participant videos for this webinar. We ask that you please hold any questions you have now or during the presentation until the end of our time today, as we hope to answer many of your questions during the presentation. I think you might have a question, and then you're going to see that we're going to answer it in a subsequent slide. At the end of the presentation, you will please enter your questions into the chat. We appreciate your questions greatly, and we'll answer them as many as we can today and also use them to inform our future technical assistance. If we do not get to your question, please do email us at reap@ed.gov. If you've emailed us before, you know that we're truly responsive to the incoming questions at that mailbox. It's really our primary method of communicating with you all out in the field. If you experience any technical difficulties during this webinar, please email the REAP team directly at reap@ed.gov, again, our mailbox, and we will work to support you in real time. We often get questions about accessing the slides or a recording of our webinars. We have already posted the slides for today's webinar on our website, and today's webinar will also be recorded, and we will post that on our website as well. And a link to the slide deck is already posted in the chat. If you want to grab that to follow along on your own computer, please, you're welcome to do that. Next slide, please. And here you can see our agenda for our time together today, showing the topics we're going to address in our presentation. We're going to begin with some foundational information about the REAP program and a timeline for our SRSA application and our REAP awards. Then we're going to walk through the fiscal year 2026 master eligibility spreadsheet. You might be familiar with that. We're going to reiterate what information that it contains so you can make sure to reference that. We're going to highlight the data that's really most relevant for the SRSA grant applicants. Next, we're going to go through step-by-step instructions for completing this year's SRSA application using Connect Survey. I want to make sure you're ready to jump into that if you haven't already. And finally, we will highlight next steps, including key resources related to the required UEI registration piece. Next slide, please. So this slide contains many of the acronyms that you will hear us reference today. We will provide these meanings when we reference the acronyms throughout our presentation. One you'll hear frequently is LEA, which stands for Local Educational Agency or District, more commonly known. And with that context, I'm going to turn it over to my colleague, Eric, to cover the basics of REAP, including both grant programs, even though our focus after Eric speaks will be on the SRSA grant program. Next slide, please.
Thanks, Victoria. And again, good morning to everybody there. We're glad to have you with us. As Victoria mentioned, we're going to spend the next couple of minutes now reviewing some of the basics of the Title V REAP program. We're also going to talk about REAP program eligibility, and then we're going to review the allowable uses that you can use for your awarded funds. Now, if you've received this grant in the past, a lot of this will be very familiar to you. But we're using this point in time to bring everyone up to speed, particularly our brand new grantees this year, to make sure they are up to speed with the REAP program. So let's go to the next slide. As some of you may know, the REAP program is found under Title V of the Elementary and Secondary Education Act of 1965. This is what we call the ESEA. Title V was enacted back in the early 2000s to specifically address the needs of rural and remote LEAs. We know that too often you lack the personnel and resources to effectively compete for and also make to effective use of the federal competitive and formula school improvement grants that you receive. Congress set up the REAP program at that point to help level the playing field for all of our rural districts and our publicly funded charters nationwide. We're going to focus, as Victoria mentioned earlier, on the REAP Small Rural School, the SRSA grant program. But we want to mention here that there are two different formula grant programs that are authorized under Title V. As you see here, there's that SRSA, the REAP Small Rural School Achievement Program. Under that program, we here at the department, we make grants directly to eligible LEAs nationwide. Those are the local education agencies that Victoria talked about. This year, we're expecting to receive about 4,300 SRSA applications that you all will submit in the next couple of weeks here. There's also another Title V REAP grant program. That's called the Rural and Low Income School. We call that the RLIS grant. Under RLIS, the department makes block grants to the states, the SEAs, the state educational agencies, who in turn make subgrants to eligible LEAs in their states. Okay, next slide, please. We're going to talk now about eligibility, how each of you got to this point and received your email invitation to submit. SRSA and RLIS differ slightly in their focus. It's reflected in the names of both programs, as well as how a district will qualify for either one. To qualify for the Small Rural School Achievement Program, befitting the name, a district must be both small and rural. You're considered to be small for SRSA if the total average daily attendance at all the schools within your LEA is under 600, or if your LEA is located in a county with a population density of less than 10 people per square mile. Either one of those two will get you small for this program. All right. You also have to be rural to receive an SRSA grant. And as you can see here, there are two ways you can meet that rural requirement. One is if all of the schools served by your district, by your LEA, have that NCS rural locale code designation of either 41, 42, or 43. The other way you can be considered rural is if your LEA is defined as rural by your state. So one of those two gets you rural for SRSA. Now, as you see here on the right, again, for RLIS, as the name implies, you have to be both rural and low income to get the RLIS grant. You're considered rural for RLIS if all of the schools in your LEA have the qualifying NCS locale code. For RLIS, it's 32, 33, 41, 42, or 43. As you see here, there's a slightly more inclusive factor for RLIS ruralness. Again, the other alternative for that is if the LEA is defined as rural by the state. Either one of those two gets you rural for RLIS. Now, to be considered low income for RLIS, at least 20% of the students in your district age 5 to 17 must be from families with incomes below the poverty line. We get to that 20%, how we get that data, we get that through the small area income poverty estimates. We call that SAPI data, which comes to us from the U.S. Census Bureau. Let's go to the next slide. Okay, what we're looking at here is kind of a graphic representation of those locale codes that we just talked about. And this is how we use them to determine ruralness for both SRSA and RLIS. We've highlighted those NCS locale codes that are currently used to determine that rurality. The RLIS is highlighted in the red box, and the SRSA is highlighted in the green box. Again, you can see here how more inclusive the RLIS ruralness criterion is than it is for SRSA. RLIS includes those small town 32 and 33 NCS locale codes. Those LEAs that have a locale code of 41, 42, or 43 may be what we call dual eligible LEAs. All right, that's going to be important as we go to the next slide here, because here we're going to take a quick review of what we call the dual eligibility. As we saw in the last slide, and you see in the graphic here, there is overlap with the SRSA and RLIS qualifying locale codes, meaning that in any given year, there's going to be LEAs that meet the eligibility for both SRSA and RLIS. In fact, we've seen as many as 1,000 of these dual eligible LEAs that show up every year for the program, and it's been that way for several years. Under the REAP statute, a dual eligible LEA can receive funds under only one of the Title V REAP programs in a given fiscal year. You can only get funding under one. You can be eligible for both, but you can only get funding under one in a given year. Therefore, the dual eligible LEAs must select either the SRSA grant or the RLIS grant at the outset. Those dual eligible LEAs with an estimated SRSA allocation above $0 are going to receive, you guys have probably already seen this if you're dual eligible, you will receive that specialized email invitation to select which REAP program you want. The invitation will include an estimate of what your LEA could receive under both SRSA and RLIS. We're doing that obviously to give you some informed look at which program may be better suited to your particular needs and which one you want to participate in. In order to further help you decide between SRSA and RLIS, the REAP team here has a considerations for dual LEAs page. We have that on our website, but we're also going to link that here in the chat for you. So, how do you, as a dual eligible LEA, tell the department which program you want? Well, all dual eligible LEAs will receive the link to select which REAP grant program they prefer. If you want to participate in SRSA, you simply select SRSA, and then you complete the attached application for SRSA. If, on the other hand, you prefer RLIS, you're going to select RLIS within the survey and then submit your response. That will automatically tell us here that your dual eligible LEA intends to participate in RLIS for the coming year. Since we don't get the SRSA application, we know that you want RLIS, all right? And any LEA, we're just reminding you that if you select RLIS, you're going to need to reach out to your state, to your SEA for guidance on how to apply for that RLIS grant. All right, next slide, please. Okay, you have received that application email and you're contemplating, if you're dual eligible, which REAP grant program you want. Next question, obviously, is, wait a minute, how can I use these REAP grant funds that I'm getting? As you can see on this slide, the REAP funds can be used for a wide variety of school improvement activities that are allowable under different ESEA title programs. This harks back to the purpose of the REAP program, which I spoke about earlier. These funds are designed to support your allowable activities under these specific school improvement title programs under the ESEA. Note that on the left side of this chart, you see the allowable uses of SRSA funds, while the right side is specific to the RLIS grant. Again, if your district is dual eligible, you may want to look at this and consider the different allowable activities under SRSA versus those allowable under RLIS as you decide which program is going to be right for your district. Additionally, an SRSA LEA can change its use of SRSA funds at any point. You have a 27-month performance period for this grant once you receive it. You are not bound by any specific fund use that you may have indicated on your application or doing. You have flexibility to change that at any point throughout the course of the performance period. We also want to mention here that all REAP funds, whether it's SRSA or RLIS, must be used to supplement and not supplant any other federal, state, or local education funds. Our website contains a lot of helpful information on allowable uses of funds, as well as information on that supplement, not supplant requirement. We're going to include that link in the chat right now, and we encourage you to explore this resource if you need more guidance on fund use, okay? Next slide, please. Right now, finally, we're going to briefly mention the Alternative Funds Use Authority, which we call AFLA. All SRSA eligible LEAs, whether you opt for RLIS or not as a dual eligible LEA, if you are eligible for SRSA, you have an additional fund use flexibility available, which we call the Alternative Fund Use Authority. We think this is something you're going to find very useful for your district. If you're eligible for SRSA, as I said, You are free to take any or all of the funds that your district receives under Title II-A and Title IV-A, and you can use them just like an SRSA grant to support your allowable school improvement activities under ESEA. You can use them for any allowable activity just like an SRSA grant. We want to mention here that this fund use authority, this FWA, it does not involve a transfer of funds from one program to another. All it is doing is expanding the allowable activities you can engage in under Title II-A or Title IV-A. So there's no funds being transferred. We're just expanding the range of allowable uses under both of those programs for you because you are SRSA eligible. The one requirement with this AFWA authority is that you let your SEA know. You need to let them know of your intent to use this authority. Our states are responsible for setting a deadline by which any LEA planning to use this has to let them know about it. So please, if this is something that's interested, please send that to your SEA. You can find more information on AFWA on our website and within the REAP informational document, which we're also linking up here in the chat. Okay, that is pretty much it for the REAP basics. Thanks for your patience and attention. I'm going to now turn it over to Emily, who's going to go over some important timelines. Emily?
Sounds good. Thank you, Eric. We're going to review the overall REAP timeline for grant making, as well as the timeline specific for the SRSA application. On this slide, you'll see the REAP timeline for fiscal year 2026, which summarizes the main touch points where REAP grantee LEAs and states interact with us here at the department during our grant making year. You'll want to review the information on the bottom of this timeline, which is relevant to LEAs. Information for SEAs is on the top. Also, a note that the department refers to the federal fiscal year when we reference our grant awards. Federal fiscal years do not line up exactly with school years since they run from October 1st to September 30th of the following year. Therefore, federal fiscal year 2026 corresponds to your 2026-27 school year. This timeline is broken down into 4 chunks detailing the main grant events happening in each time frame and what LEAs need to do or know during each event. Right now, we are beginning the SRSA application season, which is colored in yellow here. During this time, each SRSA-eligible LEA will receive an email with an invitation to complete the application, and dual eligible LEAs will choose whether to participate in the SRSA or RLIS programs. After the application closes, the REAP team will publish an updated version of the MES that includes the final program selection for each LEA. During this time, LEAs will review the MES and confirm that their program selection is correct. This is especially important for dual eligible LEAs and SRSA eligible LEAs who want to confirm that their application has been received. If there are any changes that need to be made, LEAs should immediately contact the REAP team at reap@ed.gov. Next slide. So here we have another timeline of what you can expect over the next few weeks regarding the SRSA grant making process. To start, the fiscal year 2026 SRSA application opened as of April 13th, 2026. The invitation email, which allows an eligible LEA to access the application, has been sent to the primary contact listed on the MES and published on the department's website. Eligible LEAs have until May 18th of 2026 to complete and submit their application. This is a hard deadline, so be sure you have your application submitted as soon as possible and no later than May 18th. REAP awards will be made beginning on July 1 and continuing through the end of September of 2026. Due to the sheer volume of SRSA awards that we make each year, the SRSA awards are made on a rolling basis. If an LEA applied for SRSA, the primary contact, also known as the authorized representative, will receive notification when their LEA's SRSA grant has been awarded. And now I am happy to pass it to Lainey, who will review the 2026 MES with you all.
Great. Thanks so much, Emily. As she mentioned, I'm going to provide an overview of the REAP Master Eligibility Spreadsheet, or as we call it, the MES. Next slide, please. So the MES shows a lot of information, and today I'd really like to focus on what's important for SRSA eligibility and for the application. So the MES shows all LEAs in the nation, each LEA's REAP eligibility status, including those that are dual eligible, the estimated award amounts for eligible REAP grant programs, the criteria data used to determine each LEA's eligibility status, the title programs that feed into our SRSA allocation formula, and general contact information for each LEA. We update the MES weekly during the SRSA application period to show when we have received an LEA's application, and also when awards are made final. The public version of the MES is posted to the REAP website on the SRSA and RLAS eligibility web pages. We'll drop a link to that page now, and feel free to follow along with us if you'd like. The first thing that you'll notice is that the MES has 4 tabs. The Summary tab is a breakdown of all LEAs by state and their REAP eligibility. It also includes the date of when the MES was last updated. So you can see on this slide, there's a green box in the top corner that indicates the date. We most recently published the MES on Monday, the 13th. Next is the Eligibility All LEAs tab, where you'll find your LEA's information. The next tab is the Hold Harmless tab, which has data specific to the small number of LEAs who are eligible for Hold Harmless. You can check that tab if you have any questions. And finally, there is the Data Dictionary tab, which gives the definition and data source for every column of data on the spreadsheets. The tab that we'll be focusing on today is the Eligibility All LEAs tab, since that's where you'll find the information specific to your LEA's REAP eligibility. So after clicking on the tab, the first group of columns, columns A through K, include identifying information for LEAs. Column A is where you'll find your NCES ID, which is an important key to how we on the REAP team track your LEA. We also have the state ID, LEA name, address, and phone number. You can also find your agency type, virtual designation, and if your LEA is listed as newly opened under future LEAs. The next section of columns, we have L through O, which indicate an LEA's REAP eligibility, color-coded to indicate which program an LEA is eligible for. Beside the program eligibility, you can also see in columns P and Q the estimated allocations for eligible LEAs. So dual eligible LEAs will see estimated award amounts for both SRSA and RLAS. Remember, at this time, these are estimates and are likely to change as folks submit applications. An estimated allocation of $0 means that an LEA is not expected to receive funds under that program. Column R indicates if an LEA is eligible for AFWA, the Alternative Fund Use Authority we discussed earlier. Any LEA that is eligible for SRSA, regardless of if they receive funds or not, or if they even select RLAS, is eligible for the AFWA flexibility. And then finally, column S is our tracking column for SRSA applications that have been received by the REAP team. This column will indicate a yes if we've received a completed application for that specific LEA. This is updated weekly, so it can take up to 7 days to see this confirmation appear after your LEA submits its application. As I mentioned, we just updated the MES last on Monday, so you won't see any yeses quite yet if you've submitted an application in the past couple of days. The third section is the data for eligibility determination and award calculations. In columns U through AB, you'll find the data that informed each LEA's program eligibility. This includes important pieces of data like your LEA's locale code determinations and SEA rural definitions, the average daily attendance and county population density, as well as poverty metrics. These measures that are listed for eligibility for SRSA and RLAS, so please make sure to verify this data. Columns AA and AB are your FY2024 Title 2A and 4A amounts. These are used in the calculation for your SRSA award allocations. If you believe that a piece of data has been reported incorrectly, we ask that you please bring this to the attention of your state coordinator as soon as possible. Next slide, please. Okay, this is a big one for us. The final columns you can find on this tab contain the names of your primary and secondary LEA contacts. The primary contact listed here has already received the application link via email and will also receive the confirmation email once the application has been submitted. Again, this is the primary contact. If you have not received the application, it might be because you are the secondary contact for your LEA. So please check the MES to verify who has received that application link. This primary contact will be pre-populated into the SRSA application. This information can be updated within the application itself if needed. If your contact information in these columns for your primary or secondary contact is incorrect, again, you can update that in the application itself. If you would like to correct it, you can also email us at reap@ed.gov. Please identify your LEA if you're emailing us by including your NCS ID number, the contact you'd like removed, and by providing the new contact's first name, last name, and email address. And finally, just a couple of tips for navigating the MES, because as I mentioned, it includes quite a few districts from across the nation. So we really suggest using the Control F feature to search by your LEA or your NCIS ID number. That would be Control F if you're using a PC and probably Command F if you're using a Mac. You can also highlight the NCIS ID column and search from there, or you can search the entire sheet. You can use other search details. You can look up your LEA name or contact name. Just please be sure to view the matching results in order to find the correct LEA, because we know there are a number of LEAs that have similar names. And that's the basics of the MES. So now that we've reviewed that, I'm going to pass it to Jordan, who will walk us through the application.
All right, thank you, Lainey. I know everybody's been waiting to see the parts of the application, so I'm excited to walk through that with you. So we're gonna move into our application walkthrough now. All right, the SRSA application is accessed via a unique link that was emailed to every eligible LEA's primary contact on Monday, April 13th. This invitation came from no-reply.survey@connect.gov. That is who it came from, so please look out for an email from that email address. The invitation email contains identifying information about your LEA, such as its name and address and estimated award allocations. If your LEA is dual eligible, your invitation will also compare estimated award allocations for SRSA versus RLAS. And you can see this an example of this information on the slide here where the green arrows are. Most importantly, this email contains your LEA's unique application link. Clicking on this link will take you to the Connect Survey platform to complete your LEA's application. Towards the bottom of the invitation email, you will also see a list of useful links and resources that we recommend you review before you begin the application. Remember, please check your spam folder of the primary contact listed on the master eligibility spreadsheet if your LEA has not received an application invitation email as of this webinar. Also, check your LEA's eligibility in the MES to confirm that you are not only eligible for SRSA, but you have a positive estimated allocation, so greater than $0. If for some reason your primary contact is no longer available or they cannot find the invitation email after checking their spam folder or junk folder, please email reap@ed.gov immediately. I'm going to say that one more time. If your primary contact is no longer your primary contact or your primary contact cannot locate your invitation email, please email reap@ed.gov immediately. Last note on the invitation email, it goes to the primary contact, but it can be forwarded. For example, the superintendent may be the primary contact, but they may forward it on to email it to their clerk, and the clerk may complete the application. That is perfectly acceptable. All right, let's dive into the application. After clicking on your LEA's unique link in that email invitation we just went over, you will be directed to the FY2026 SRSA application. Please read the instructions page thoroughly before you click begin. You should be able to complete the application in about 10 to 30 minutes, but you will have the option to save your progress and re-access your application by following the same link that was in your invitation email. Note that you can only submit this application one time. The very first part of the application requires reviewing and confirming the contact information we have listed for your LEA, much like Lainey had talked about earlier. The LEA name, mailing address, phone number, and primary and secondary contacts will be auto-populated into the application itself. You can see that on the slide here that it auto-populates. This information was provided by your state education agency, or SEA, to the department. For the address, please note that REAP only collects an LEA's mailing address. If you would like to request an update to your LEA's physical address, please contact your SEA. If the information is correct, you can click yes and proceed. If it's not, please click no, and you will be prompted to update the information that is incorrect. Notice that you are required to provide only the corrected information and leave the other fields blank. Remember, REAP requires 2 different contacts people for each grantee LEA. Please ensure you list different individuals as the primary and secondary contacts on this screen. I'm going to reiterate that one more time. Please make sure your primary and secondary contacts are 2 different individuals at your LEA. All right. We've talked about this next one a couple times, and that's dual eligibles. If you're a dual eligible LEA, you will receive a personalized survey. This survey will begin the exact same way as the previous slide noted, confirming all of your LEA's contact information and making sure it's up to date. Then it's going to ask you to indicate which program you are choosing to select, SRSA or RLIS. Selecting SRSA will lead you to the remainder of the SRSA application. Selecting RLIS will indicate to the REAP team, us, that you will not receive an SRSA award this year, but will instead receive an award through RLIS by following your SEA's process for applying for RLIS. The next portion of the application is related to your LEA's unique entity identifier, or what we will call UEI. An entity wishing to receive any funds from the federal government must have an active and registered UEI. As in previous years, we have pre-populated the UEI into the application for any LEA that has previously provided their UEI to REAP. If the pre-populated field is correct, you may select Next at the bottom of the page. As you can see from this screenshot, there is a green arrow showing you where your UEIs would be pre-populated if you provided one. If the UEI provided in the field is not correct, update the field so that it displays the correct UEI for your LEA, then select Next. If this field is blank, REAP does not have a UEI on file for your LEA. You must enter your UEI in the field before continuing with the application. We'd like to make this important note. If your LEA does not have a UEI, for instance, this may be your first year being eligible, please type eligible for SRSA, please type registering in the field below and shown on this page. You must visit SAM.gov as soon as possible to register your UEI free of charge. Promptly email us at reap@ed.gov to submit your registered UEI once one is assigned to you. You cannot receive any federal funds without a fully registered and active UEI. We're going to go over some helpful SAM.gov resources towards the end of our presentation today. Moving on to the next portion of the SRSA application, and that is intended use of funds. This section asks that you indicate your intended use of funds by selecting the appropriate use of funds category from the list on this screen. We want to be very clear that this question is an intended use of funds with an emphasis on intended. While each LEA indicates how it intends to use its funds on the SRSA application, the information that an LEA provides in the application is not binding. I'm going to repeat that again. The intended use of funds section for an LEA is not binding, and an LEA is free to change how it will spend its funds at any time during the grant's performance period. You do not need to notify us of this change unless you have a question about allowability. Please note that this response will not be included in the summary email. So if knowing your LEA, how your LEA replied to this question is important to you, please be sure to take note of your response when you are completing this portion of the application. You may select as many boxes as you wish. Selecting only one box is also acceptable. We understand that these selections may be multiple distinct uses of funds or that a single project may overlap multiple fund use categories. All right, we are almost to the end of the SRSA application. As we near the end, you'll need to read through the assurances and respond to several prompts in order to proceed. When ready, the applicant LEA will agree to the assurances, click the date icon to populate the current day's date. You can see that in the screenshot. There's a little green box that shows where you would select the date, and then provide an electronic signature by typing the primary contact's name in the box. You may then proceed to the next section of the application where you are going to review all of your LEA's responses before you submit. All right, we've made it to the end. Lastly, you'll be asked to submit that application. Be sure to click that submit button before closing out of that web browser. That is extremely important. Now, you might be asking yourself, I've submitted my application, now what? After clicking submit, you will see a confirmation page that looks like the screenshot on this slide here. The LEA's primary contact, who received the initial invitation email, will also receive that confirmation email. That means that even if another staff member completed the application, because it can't be forwarded, the confirmation email will still be sent to the primary contact who received the invitation email. This email will include confirmation of the information provided throughout the application, except for your non-binding responses to the intended use of funds question. As a reminder, this confirmation email may go to your spam folder, so we highly recommend checking your spam and junk folders, as well as ensuring that your LEA's firewall did not prevent the email from being delivered. Make sure you retain a copy of your confirmation email. If the primary contact for your LEA needs to be updated, we recommend that you save the confirmation page after completing the application by printing or screenshotting the confirmation page. You will also find here a link to the FY2026 post-application information document that Emily just popped in the chat for you. We recommend clicking on this link and reviewing the information provided. If you need to change any of the information that you provided in your SRSA application after it has been submitted, please contact us immediately at reap@ed.gov. All right. And now I'd like to pass it to Emily to review some important next steps and resources.
Thank you, Jordan. We are happy now to share some important resources that you may need prior to and after completing your SRSA application. As we've mentioned, the primary contact for each SRSA-eligible LEA should have received an SRSA application invitation from the U.S. Department of Education and that email address, no-reply.survey@connect.gov. This is not a standard department email address, so it might not be recognized by your inbox. If your primary contact does not see this invitation email, just be sure to check those spam and junk folders. Throughout the application window, we will be sending reminder emails to both the primary and secondary contacts of eligible LEAs that have not yet applied. Again, if you're not sure who the LEA's current primary contact is, you can find that information. It is on our public MES, and I'm going to drop a link to the chat now. Lainey walked you through this earlier. The primary contact may be forwarded the email application to other staff members in the event that you wish for someone else to complete the application. If the listed primary contact is not able to forward the email or is no longer with your LEA, please email us at reap@ed.gov to request the link. And it is very important to include your NCES ID number in that email address. It is very hard to locate you on the MES without that information, so please do include that for us. It'll get you your link faster. Keep in mind that once the application is submitted, it will be the listed primary contact that receives the confirmation email with that post-application information document that's linked in the chat. Next slide. This slide features a screenshot of the SAM.gov website where you will go to renew your UEI registration or register for the very first time if you do not have an active and registered UEI already. UEI registration and renewal through SAM.gov is free. Please do not fall for any sales pitches or pressure tactics from third parties that may try to charge you for a fee for maintaining your UEI in SAM.gov. You do not need that. You will also see that there are 3 options on this screenshot that allow you to either register for a UEI, renew your UEI, or check an entity's status. Your UEI must be annually renewed in SAM.gov in order to access your SRSA funds. You can use the SAM.gov Check Entity Status button to find out the status of your SAM registration as it currently stands. And I'm going to link the Entity Status Tracker. I highly recommend you all check it. And I can walk you through some of the messages on the next slide. So if you've logged into SAM.gov and you've clicked on the Entity Status Tracker, you will be able to search by your UEI and learn more about its current status. This slide shows possible status updates that you might see on that status tracker and the recommended next steps for each message. The first is an active registration message, and this means that your LEA's UEI is active and registered. Nothing else would be required at that moment, although it is really good to note the date that your UEI will expire, since it will expire every year. If you notice that your UEI is expiring prior to September 30th, please renew that UEI as soon as possible. This is to ensure that your LEA has an active UEI for the entire window during which the department will be making your award available to you. The second message you might see is ID assigned. This means that your entity has a UEI number assigned, but it is not fully registered. Please follow the directions to register your UEI. For a work in progress status, the tracker will often give you instructions on the specific step of the SAM process that you still need to work on or that is currently being processed. Please follow those instructions promptly. If you see inactive or mandatory errors, we recommend contacting SAM directly, as you will likely need to submit additional materials. If you need support to update your SAM.gov registration, we recommend contacting the SAM.gov help desk directly by going to the Federal Service Desk or FSD and using their live chat or create an incident feature. And let me go ahead and copy that link into the chat now for you all. Although the REAP team does track on the UEIs through the Entity Status Tracker, we do not process registrations or renewals. That process is handled completely by the SAM.gov team, and we cannot see any of the materials that you may submit. When you reach out to the SAM team for help, please be sure to respond to their emails promptly. Help tickets do close out if they are ignored, and it will result in you needing to begin another help ticket. Next slide, please. This slide will be most useful to you once you have downloaded the slide deck and are able to click on all the links provided at your own pace and based on your own need. The REAP team is aware of some more commonly asked questions, and we hope that these answers provided help speed up your UEI renewal or registration process. We include here steps to create a SAM.gov account and obtain the entity administrator role within SAM.gov. There are also links to support if this is the first time you are registering a UEI, as well as steps to take to renew an already existing UEI that may be expired or is expiring soon. And on this slide, we also link the SAM.gov help desk, the FSD help desk again. If you click on that link and you scroll all the way to the bottom of the page, that is where you will find a box labeled Create an Incident. I recommend using this feature to start a help ticket that is trackable by you. It is the easiest way to ensure you're following up on the SAM.gov team's responses and required next steps. And now I think we are ready for the next slide to begin to address some of the questions that might have come in. We do have a little time left, and I know Lainey has been busy answering questions that she sees already. So I will give you some time to type a question in the chat if you have one, and our team can come back on to answer what we see. Lainey, did you see anything in the chat that you'd like to raise for the good of the whole group?
Yeah,